So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to trace an image first on an A4 sheet, and which we will be using to understand the shading using color pencil. The same tracing technique is what you will use to trace on the wafer paper as well. So right now I'm using A4 sheet. Okay. So the things that you need is the image that we will be using to do the portrait painting, and this has been resized to the size of the cake that I will be using it on. And the next thing will be an A4 sheet. This is the one on top of which I'm going to trace the image, and I also have an OHP sheet. I'll tell you why I need an OHP sheet in the first place, because you could avoid using an OHP sheet. Where now the fourth thing I need is the acrylic board, which is a transparent sheet. It could be a glass or acrylic to start with, or any light colored board through which the light can pass through. Okay, so that is very important. Now this is the acrylic board I use to frost the cakes basically. So you can see the hole that is used for the center dowel, but that's not important here. But just because I have this hole in the board, I'm going to use the OHP sheet on top of this, because on top of this is where I'm going to use the pencil to outline, and I don't want that hole to come in between when I'm going to do the tracing part, right? So if you have a board which does not have a hole, then you could skip using the OHP sheet. But if you are going to use an acrylic board that you're going to use for your cake frosting and all that, then the OHP sheet is going to help you. And you don't want it to have like a solid thick sheet through which the light will not pass through. We want this also transparent, because light is going to pass through from the underside of this board. So these are the four things, and then what I have here is a tray. Okay, and here is where I'm going to place the light source, and for the light source what I have here is a table light. Okay, so the light is going to be here, and because there is a rod that connects this light to be placed on the table, and I want this light to be on the underside here. I don't want to place it through the top of the tray. I just want it to go through this hole, and that is why I prefer my tray to have the hole on either side. Also, I have two such light sources here, because when I had used one of the light source, the light was not enough for me to trace, so I'm using two. So now, if you are unable to get a table lamp like I have, or any light source that you can think of which is going to solve the purpose for letting the light pass through from the underside of the acrylic board, then you could prefer to use a mobile phone, and then use the torch option and place the torch facing up and place the mobile in the tray like that. And obviously one such light source will not be enough to trace the entire image what we have. So in that case, maybe you might have to use two mobiles, like how I'm using two light sources here. So first you have to figure out the light source what you're going to do, and based on that the tray will have to be chosen. And for me, this is worked with the light source that I have, which is a tray with holes on both sides, and table lamp which has a rod, and then I am able to pass through this light through the hole in the tray, and I have two such light sources, and then all the sheets and the acrylic board. And obviously I need pencils. We are just going to use pencil to trace. You could use a pen also, but obviously pencil. Then there is an eraser and then a sharpener, just in case you want to sharpen the pencil as you are tracing. And the other important thing is the sellotape, because we are going to attach the images onto the acrylic board using the sellotape. Okay, so first, to prepare the image, I want to stick the image on the acrylic board. So the first layer will be the board itself. Okay, and on top of the board, the first thing I want to do is to place the OHP sheet. Now I'm going to place the OHP sheet, and we don't want the OHP sheet or the images to be moving once we start tracing. So we just want to attach them layer by layer. So go ahead and stick the sellotape on all four sides. Now on top of the OHP sheet, I'm going to place the image that I need to trace. I'm going to align it properly with the OHP and stick that. I need to make sure the image fits properly within the acrylic board. Here you can see a little bit of the A4 paper is just going out of the acrylic board, but what I just need is the surface of the image to be within the acrylic board. Now this is stuck, and then you can see all this three together is like in one piece. Now on top of this, I need to have the plain A4 paper, and I am aligning it and sticking this as well. I'm sticking it in all four sides so the papers will not move unless this whole thing together will be in one piece, and it is not going to move away when I'm going to trace it. So this first preparation is done, and for the next step I'm going to get the tray in and insert this light one from the side. Here I just want to not keep it straight because I need space for the other light as well, and this one bends, this rod bends for me, so I'm just going to place it in such a way that I have created space for the other light as well. Okay, and I'm just going to insert the second light as well and make sure it is placed properly so both the lights have its own space. And now on top of this I'm going to place the acrylic board. Now this you can move it as you want to use your pencil to do the drawing because the image is not going to change. Now after this step you have to switch the light on, okay, to both of them. You can see the image is seen through, and now before starting to trace, I'm just going to use the pencil, right? Before starting to trace, you want the light, only this light source to be switched on. So you have to switch off the light in your room. So this one becomes brighter and you will be able to see through the image through the acrylic board, and what you see on top of the A4 plain A4 sheet is that image itself, because the light source is just going to be bright while the rest of the room has to be dark. Now I'm going to switch that light off and then I'm going to start to trace. Okay, so now you can see the image clearly, and the top layer is the A4 sheet, right? Now I'm just going to go on, and every time you just want to make sure the paper is not folded or bent, and then you have a clean top for the A4 sheet, the normal one. I'm just going to use my pencil and go on in and first do a proper outline. I have to be very specific about the outline and not be I shouldn't be approximating the outline. Be very careful about the outline. And little bit of hair that I'm just going on now. I just want to be very careful about all the outline. First finish off the outermost. If you feel you've done a mistake, then you could just go use your eraser. And here Just in case if you feel like the light is not enough, you could move the entire acrylic board and then start tracing. And wherever you feel that there are ups and downs here in the beard, obviously there has to be ups and downs. Try to retain the ups and downs in the outline rather than thinking that you could have a smooth outline and later on you could look into the image for the ups and downs. So just be very specific about the outline. So the outermost is done, and then what I need to look for after the stage is demark the colors. What are the colors that I see here? Now I'm just going to go ahead and look for the black areas. I'm just going to come from the top. I mean, either it could be color based or it could be from the sections. So from the top I'm just going to move on. I'm seeing a bit of white areas here, okay, on top of the hair. So you can just mark those white areas within. Wherever I can see the smaller white, so all these white areas, let me mark. So those will be the areas where I will do the shading, and though I am going to look into the image later on to know where exactly the shadings are going to be, to mark them on the image without these tracing outlines would be a little difficult. Okay, so this hair part and then the white areas in the hair is done. After this, what I'm going to do is to look for the black area that just ends and then the face starts. So here again, that is very important to define a person's facial feature, where exactly the hair ends in the forehead. So there again I'm just going to be very detailed. It's just nothing, just pay attention to where that color ends. You don't even have to look at what is the shape of the face and all that. Just observe the outline. Pay attention to that detail alone. So here from the hair it just moves on to the beard as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and then this continues a bit to the mustache, which I'm going to do. I'm only looking for the black. Here what you see is a bit of red. I'm going to ignore the red now because I'll come back to work on the red part. Now I'm focusing only to see where the black outline is. Obviously I'm putting good amount of pressure. See, there is a thin line of black here. And I see a little bit of black here as well. So I've covered most of the place here. So there is a red here and then I see the black. So I'm just going to finish up with the black outline. Here I can see some red demarcation there. They are the black ones, but then they are not like too dark. It's not pitch dark black, but still I'm just demarking there because it is not the proper red. It is a maroonish red, but I'm just going to use the term red for easy understanding. And then going ahead for the tie part. And then moving ahead here. The lighter black areas, which is the gray part, also I'm just demarking. So this is tiny lines, very thin ones, but still I just want to know where exactly those lines fit. So then I can be sure when I am adding the buttercream there. Okay. So here again, that's a demarcation for the red, but here for the black, I just want to add the line. I'll go back and then check if all the blacks are done. But then here on the eyebrow, eyebrows are very important. They define the person, the portrait of whom we are working on. So just be careful. And in an image like that, there will be continuation to the eyeball together with the eyebrow. But then don't worry. Maybe in real, it may not be as continuous as this, but here we are just not going to be worried about how in real the eyes are made in a portrait, but we're just going to pay attention to the color demarcation in the image that we are using. So those are for the white dots. Okay, and then I'm just going to finish this eye. And then there is a bit of white line under the eye, that also I'm just going to pay attention. So that part is done. Now before finishing with a red part, let me get done with both the eyes, the black. So I'm just being very specific where the white ends in the eye. When there are red areas as well, but I'll just keep them for red only. Okay, so most of the black is covered. If there are any, then I can just go back and do as I'm going to go a little bit intricate here. Now let me move on to red here on the forehead, and just a bit above the eyebrows also. You can see very intricate parts of red is there, which I'll just go ahead and very carefully make the outline. So here first I'm just going to go on the extreme outline of the red first, but I can see there are quite a bit of blue areas within the red, but right now let me finish off with the red one. So these are also for the red, and this mole is very important. Okay, so define the portrait. Now I can see demarking with the blue. Okay, so that part is done. Let me move here a bit above the eyebrow where I see the red. There's a little bit of blue here. So reds here on the face are quite covered. Here is very important. So we've done an outline of the mustache. Here I'm just going to focus on the black and the lips again. The shape is very important. Just go on in and find the blacks and leave the demarcation for every other color you see. I can see some white and red as well. So it's important to outline on the red, black, and leave out the space. Have a demarcation for white as well because that will define the shape of the lip. So I'm just going in, observing where the shades are. I don't have to worry about the actual shape of the lip of the portrait. I'm just focusing on where the colors are. Have I demarked the black, white, and the red that I see? The upper lip is mostly done. So you can see all these areas are the black, and then there's one major white, and then all the rest will be red. Okay, and then I am moving on to the bottom. So that is the black on the lower lip. And carefully doing the red. This is just under the lip area, but still it is mostly the shadow of the lower lip. But I'm going to find just the red positions. Obviously, ups and downs have to be captured as you see. So I'm just looking for more places which I might have skipped. Now here is for the neck. There is a red division here. And then on the ear, I'm just going to move a little towards the light. And see wherever I see the black, I make a demarcation there as well. And then there's blue left, which I want to mark that one as well. So once I'm done with, here there is red which I just want to mark. Here there is white and there is white which I will mark. And then the ears are done. Now I'm just going to look for the blues, and then there is white inside the blue, and in fact there is a bit of ivory, a very light ivory shade. So first I'm just going to start demarking. First look for the blue and do the demarcation and find the blues. And then I see the ivory ends here, which is the white part. That level of shading has to go in at that place. And then again here you can see there is ivory first within the blue, and where I see white specifically, I'll just do an outline for that as well. So now I've mostly covered all the places. Now I'm just going to go in and look for places in case I've missed any small detailing, just in case. Even the tiniest of thing, because later on it is difficult to go and spot the position of you. You might, okay, so I have just missed out on that little bit of white. You know that it is missed, but to go and locate the exact position will get a little difficult later. So now once you've done, just find the tiny bits, like I see a little bit of red here, and then maybe I have missed out on the tiny bit of whites here under the eye. But if you do not demark it now, then you might end up adding red there and leave out the detailing. And if you do not add the white, then you're just missing out on that specific detail, that particular color, and that adds a lot of difference when the exact color falls in that particular segment. Okay, so inside this again I see very tiny lighter shades. That could be white, but then it is not the same color within that area that I have demarked. You can see the blue here, which I just missed on when I did the first level, which is the overall shading. Here again there is blue, but it's not all blue. You can see there is a little bit of white red within the blue part, right? Okay, so I think mostly this is done. So let me just switch on the light and open out the paper and show you how it looks after we've just removed the actual image. You'll be seeing a skeleton with the outline, which may not look like the portrait that maybe you're trying to do, but however that doesn't matter. This outline is not necessary if you're going to use it over a cake. Obviously we will be cutting it before placing it on the cake to the size, which is the wafer paper section. But now the next step after I do this is to pencil shade. I'm going to stick to using the background image, the background color of what I see in this inspiration, because ideally I prefer not to change anything from the inspiration, so we don't have to deviate and stick to the image and don't have to improvise at all, which means we are just aiming at getting what exactly we have as the inspiration. So then now the next step is to move on and do the shading. For now I'm just going to open this and show the image to you. I'm just switching off the lights. I'm going to take them out. So I've removed the sellotape, and then I have the outline here. Now I can move this out, and so this is the image. It looks like a skeleton, but that is where we are just going to start over and do the pencil shading. So the next lesson will be to understand the pencil shading. That's very important because you observe and then it goes and gets fed inside your head. So when you're going to work with buttercream, you know where exactly which shading is going to come. So see you in the next lesson.